for being present. We'll go ahead and get started with our meeting. I'm Maxine Drew, who is the Vice President of our board, and we will go ahead and get started. Before we do that, I want to go through and read our board norms and protocols to respect differences of opinions in making decisions for the district, to follow best practices in managing the superintendent and the management of the board itself, to stay on task when conducting business for the district, including while at board meetings, to never surprise the superintendent or each other when conducting official business of the district, to read these norms at the beginning of each board meeting and at board workshops as a reminder to how to conduct our meeting, to continually self-check to determine if we are following the norms while following our norms when conducting district business. And at this time, we'll have roll call coming from our board clerk.
Yolanda Clark. Maxine Drew.
Maxine Drew, present.
Janie Humphries.
Janie Humphries, present.
Randy Lopez.
Must be muted.
Mr. Lopez, can you hear me? Wanda Brownlee Page.
Wanda Brownlee Page, present.
Rachel Russell.
Rachel Russell, present.
Dr. Nguyen.
Dr. Nguyen, present.
And so Ms. Clark and Mr. Lopez are online.
So the laptop currently says join audio as though audio is not connected on the computer.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
We're going to check into it.
At this particular time, we'll go ahead and we will have awards recognition from Healthcare Workforce Pipeline.
Approve the agenda.
Mr.
I'm sorry, thank you. Could I get someone to approve the agenda for today, please?
So move.
Second.
I'd like to add something to the agenda, please.
Okay.
I would like to add that we get an update on our air conditioning systems in our schools, please.
Thank you. I'm just writing information down to make sure. Any other comments?
Is there someone here to provide? I don't see Doug, and that's the only reason I'm just asking to make
Or
sure.
someone can.
Oh, somebody can. Okay.
They'll have to.
Okay. Well, could we go ahead and this is quite a while since I've done this, so please be patient with me as I go through this process of being in charge. It has been suggested that we add an update on the air conditioning within the schools. Could I get a motion for that? And I'm trying to make sure that I'm doing everything
Okay.
proper.
I move that we get an update, please.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Ms. Leslie, could you give us a
Discussion.
vote? Is there open for discussion from anyone? Thank you.
Where are we adding it on the agenda? I apologize.
No, she wants to add it to the agenda. And so right now, what we're doing is going to discuss it as a board before we decide to vote for it.
Could it be under the superintendent's comments? The question was
Where do you want to add it?
probably number 6.
On number 6 for letter C?
Probably, wouldn't it?
Okay. So it will be added onto our agenda for the updates and approvals, which will be letter C.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Any comments or questions? Okay, could we have a vote, please?
Yolanda Clark.
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew.
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries.
Janie Humphries, yes.
Randy Lopez.
Randy Lopez, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page.
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Rachel Russell.
Rachel Russell, yes.
Dr. Nguyen.
Dr. Nguyen, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now can we approve our agenda,
Can I,
Amended agenda.
the amended agenda?
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
So I guess in preparation of what your request is, I would also like for us to get kind of a synopsis of how we're operating, both addressing car riders, walkers, outdoor activity, just kind of that synopsis. I think I got a little bit of it in what was shared with families, but it sounds like there's inconsistencies potentially, and so kind of the direction that we are in to provide some clarity for the general public as
So
well.
I would say a part of my comments
Okay.
include that part, so if there are unanswered
Pieces
components,
or-
then when we have it, we can do it at that
Okay,
point.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so could we go ahead and let's vote for the amended agenda?
So
We
moved.
done that?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so let's go ahead, and our next thing is the healthcare.
But for clarity, we voted for the amended. Now we need to vote for the approval of the agenda, because we never
Correct.
did that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I was under the assumption that we had done
No,
that.
we did for the amendment.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Leslie, could you go ahead so that we can approve the amended agenda?
Let's do
I
it.
moved and she seconded.
Okay. So, Ms. Humphries, just a second.
Okay.
Yolanda Clark?
I
So,
think
Ms. Humphries?
for clarity, I thought we're voting, was it motion and second?
we made it.
For the approval of the agenda, because I don't think that
the
came out
amended-
real clear. I'm sorry.
Agenda.
Okay.
So, motion to approve the amended
Amended
agenda
agenda.
by Ms. Humphries and seconded by Rachel Russell. Yolanda Clark?
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew?
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries?
Janie Humphries, yes.
Randy Lopez?
Randy Lopez, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page?
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Rachel Russell?
Rachel Russell, yes.
Dr. Nguyen?
Dr. Nguyen, yes.
Okay, thank you, thank you. So now we are ready for the Healthcare Workforce Pipeline Awards recognition.
Okay.
Thank you.
Again, just for clarity, we voted to amend it, but don't we have to vote to approve it? Just for clarity, we never voted for that. That's what I was asking the first time. We voted to amend it. I thought we had to vote to approve it.
Twice.
We keep adding the word, the amended part. That's what's throwing me off.
Okay, I was
I
under the
just wanted
assumption that we did
clarity.
vote to approve it.
No, the added words was amended. So I thought now we need to vote to approve it.
So the first motion was to amend the agenda, adding the additional topic in regards to the air conditioning. The second motion by Ms. Humphries was to approve the amended agenda. We're-
Yeah, so we should be okay.
Yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure, nothing like a good understanding.
Okay, thank
Appreciate
you,
that.
Wanda.
Okay,
And if you see it,
Okay, that's why-
help us to get clarity.
I
Thank you.
said it in love.
Okay. Okay.
Gotcha.
All right. So again, we are now ready for the awards and recognition of the Healthcare Workforce Pipeline. Thank you for your patience.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for having me here tonight. My name is Carol. I'm going to scooch over here because I can barely see y'all over the podium. My name is Carol Bradford. I am the CEO of the Kansas City Medical Society Foundation. We are the charitable arm of the Kansas City Medical Society. And it's been my privilege for about 5 years to work with various members of this school district and other school districts in Wyandotte County on a community health improvement plan subcommittee that looks at issues of healthcare workforce diversity, both from an economic development perspective and from the perspective that calls to me, which is the health access and health equity perspective. And so after many years of doing work with school districts in the area and developing and debuting a paper career guide to healthcare careers for educators and counselors that came out in November 2020. We're very, very pleased to be able to put this on the web and to actually create the linkages and have the interactive elements that students and parents can use to explore healthcare careers. So I'm going to take you through this if you don't mind. There were many, many contributing organizations both for the career guide and for the website as well. Again, that this was something that came out of the Community Health Improvement Plan with the Wyandotte County Health Department, both the health access and the economic development focus areas. So part of our initial project motivations was to recognize the degree to which racial and linguistic alignment between healthcare professionals and patients actually improves patient health outcomes. Concordance, that agreement, that understanding that we have with folks that we can talk to and easily communicate with, a sense of shared value, a sense of shared language, both small L language, as well as literally sharing the same language. We also talked with many of the safety net clinics, federally qualified health centers, and hospitals in Wyandotte County, and many of them talked about the need for trained and certified health professionals from the communities that they served. I will tell you, I worked for several years at a safety net clinic in downtown KCK. I love that clinic. I loved my time there. And I saw the degree to which it was almost impossible. I remember one experience that we had. We were trying to hire a medical assistant. This is the person when you go to the doctor's office, they take your blood pressure, they take your temperature, they ask you a few questions, they take you to the room, they room the patient. And there are a lot of really important interactions medically that come out in that experience. And it's really crucial when you're serving underserved populations or populations that are historically disenfranchised from healthcare, that you have the right people on your team, the right people with the right set of skills and backgrounds. So one of the things that we did is we talked with clinics and hospitals like that about the needs that they were seeing. Not only what languages and what backgrounds did they need, but what types of careers did they need. And then we also worked with educators from many different school systems over the course of several years. And we heard from them, first, that sometimes students don't know the difference between different types of healthcare careers. But then we also heard from the educators that they didn't really feel comfortable always talking about healthcare careers in depth. So we looked at, the Kansas City Medical Society Foundation works to most of what we do is to work to make sure that people who are uninsured and have almost zero access to specialty care can access that care. We do it through something called WIJO Care in Wyandotte County and Johnson County and Metro Care in Missouri. Together, our organization has served this county since 2004. Between our very small staff and leadership, we have over 50 years' experience in charity healthcare, much of which I'll tell you was at the FQHCs and safety net clinics in this community. So we bring that experience with that population to this goal. We also recognize that community health disparities are directly rooted, at least in part, through communication between patients and providers. If there's a miscommunication or a lack of information being conveyed, you don't get the same development of good diagnosis, good treatment plan, good understanding of how to engage that treatment plan. And then the other piece that's really foundational to our approach is that community health can best be addressed by a healthcare workforce that reflects the population served with shared lived experiences, values, and languages. This is a bit of our project history. I'll tell you the truth, I'm terrible at PowerPoint, so I think I already went over this with you. In 2020, we formed a community-based collaboration between two different CHIP committees. We got a lot of input. We developed concepts and data. We did, I was wrong, we did release the print career guide in April of 2021. We received some funding for this website in late 2022. We engaged, again, some of the resources of the KCK Public Schools, in particular, Mr. Clifton Jefferson and Nicole Pizzato. Clifton Jefferson from FL Schlegel were very, very helpful to us in engaging students in looking at our website development and some of the materials that we had there. And now we are preparing for the formal release and debut of this website. So I'm here to present to you all before the rest of the public sees it. The things to keep in mind when you're thinking about this career guide is that it is not every healthcare career in Wyandotte County. We looked at 3 key elements. High need. Are these careers that are high need, not just through COVID, but are projected to have a high need for the next several years? Are they high impact? When we're looking at community health disparities, are these careers well positioned to have a high impact on community health disparities through the care that they provide? Are they high wage? If it wasn't at least a livable wage, we did not feel that we could include it in this career guide. Some features of the website: it's bilingual, it's interactive, and it's really aimed for career exploration for students and families. So I'll take you through this very quickly. It is, again, rooted in the idea that healthcare should reflect the community. You can look at individual career paths. You can also take a really fun quiz. I'm almost at my 5 minutes, so I won't take that quiz with you. But I do want to click on a couple of careers. Here, you'll see the projected job growth, the average median wage in the metro, and what type of training is required, or the length of training required. Here, we can click through to this exact program at different area universities and colleges. So, for instance, respiratory therapy, which has been crucial over the last several years. This is a direct link to not just KCK Community College, but also the particular program. There are careers in a number of areas, again, that are very specific to this community and to the feedback that we got back from employers. And we're very, very excited to debut this with the school system on September 12th. So thank you all. I don't know if I stand for questions, but I'm happy to take them.
Thank you. Are there any questions?
Ms. Drew,
Yes.
thank you for your presentation. And the real question is, can we get a copy of your presentation, or is this protected information?
It is not at all protected information. I'll be happy to send it to,
You can send it to Dr. Fernandez Flores, and I will attach it to the end of the week. And also to this item in the board docs, we'll get it to Ms. Smith as well.
thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Ma'am, I have a question.
Yes.
Will your organization help the children as well? You're talking about careers, but will they assist them in financial aid in regard to going to college or school? Is there some assistance on that part?
That's sort of the next goal for the CHIP committee, which is larger than just our organization. That is the next goal. We've had some conversations with funders of scholarship and career training programs. I will note, let's see where it is. On several of the careers, you will see, let me find one. Nurse practitioner, nurse anesthetist. Okay, I picked the wrong career. On several of the careers, you'll see that workforce development. Well, okay. These are definitely careers that should have a note that workforce partnership has funding for these particular careers. And that looks like it will be fixed by the time you all get this link and can see it, because it was on there yesterday. But yes, so we do have the beginning where workforce partnership in Wyandotte County has worked to identify careers that they have funding, for which they have funding. And then our next goal is to bring together those funders of scholarship and work training programs we can't tell them what they need to, how to do their business, but we can engage them in this particular focus area for this particular community.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Ms. Drew, this is Randy, just really quickly. Hey, Carol, I'm sorry I could not be there today for your presentation, so I apologize. I wish I could have been there today to see it and to say hello. But thank you for coming today to present on this. I know this has been a lot of work and a long time coming in terms of you and the CHIP committee and other organizations working on this work. I did just want to lift up, I'm really excited to see next steps in terms of the iteration of the partnership of the work that you're doing with the Kansas Medical Society Foundation and White Joe Care, along with the CHIP group. I'll just lift up to the board. We've taken some steps internally as well and have approved some partnerships with some local safety net providers, FQHCs, that are going to really bring some experiences to our students. So I'm really excited to kind of see how these align. And then just on the greater level, and Carol, you touched on this as well, in the metro area, well, nationally, but here in the metro area, there are local funders who are pulling folks together to continue to have this conversation and to find a way to make sure that we are supporting students in their growth and exposure to different health pathways and health careers. So, one that I can think of, for instance, is Health Forward Foundation that's bringing together a cohort of educational partners and workforce partners to talk about how to create this pathway for students and especially for students in communities like Kansas City, Kansas. So I'm excited for this. I just wanted to, again, just say thank you, Carol, and to the CHIP committee and to this board for your work and cultivating and nurturing these types of partnerships. I know we've got some with Mercy and Truth, with Vibrant Health, with SWOPE here locally. So just excited to see the next iteration of this work. Thank you.
Thank you. Rachel?
Yeah, my question, and I may be on the wrong CHIP team, it may be the workforce partnership, but are you all also doing the tours as it relates to the career guide, or is that just the workforce, or I guess WIEDC's other angles? Because there's more than just this toolkit
Yes.
related to professional. But I wondered if you had specific, based on some of the things in your website demo, that then help students see the careers and see what that looks like.
So that is the tours, and I believe there's a health career tour coming up. Members of our CHIP committee supported that, but that is actually coming out of EDC.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
It's a great question. There are so many moving parts.
There
in
are,
this,
and as someone who does the housing CHIP work, I totally understand, so, thank you.
Again, want to thank you for presenting this information to us to enlighten us as where we will be moving forward in a very positive way.
Yes.
And we hope to see greater things even more so in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, at this point, we will have an approval for the consent agenda.
Ms.
Need a
Drew, would like to
motion to
set
approve?
aside H and I.
So moved, the consent agenda, removing H and I.
Someone to second it?
Second.
Thank you. Okay, could we have a vote, please, for the consent of the agenda with the removal of H and I?
Yolanda Clark,
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries,
Janie Humphries, yes.
Randy Lopez,
Randy Lopez, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page,
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Rachel Russell,
Rachel Russell, yes.
Dr. Nguyen?
Dr. Nguyen, yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so could we look at H, approve Infinite Campus Analytics?
Thank you. Dr. Stubblefield, who addresses any questions to this?
Dr. Conrad,
Okay.
and I'll fill in where I can.
All right, thank you. So in general, help me understand, this is a renewal or is this new?
It is a portion of Infinite Campus, and so it is not new in the sense of Infinite Campus isn't new, but it is new within Infinite Campus. It's the module within
Okay.
Infinite Campus.
So with that in mind, how were we, or were we obtaining this data without this tool, without this module?
So currently, we're not obtaining this data. This data doesn't exist. A portion of this is predictive analytics to help us see how kids are progressing towards graduation and who's on track and off track. So it's an analytics suite that we currently don't have.
Okay, and help me understand, how do you, I guess, in what intervals do you look at it, get a report? How's that work?
It's updated nightly. And so as more information is entered into Infinite Campus, so grades, attendance, the algorithm updates nightly.
So how do you use the data? I mean, you don't do it every day.
So-
It updates nightly, so how,
So when we give our end of quarter academic reports, either at quarter or semester, what makes sense, we would include that data. We can include that data at that time of, what percent of our students at each, is it at each high school level, like 9, 10, 11, 12?
It goes all the way down.
Yeah,
Yep.
that are on track to graduate. So we can share it when we do our quarterly reports.
okay, so, and I'm listening to you say we can share it. What is your intention? There has to be some intention with the purchase of this additional.
Right, so we will share it with our quarterly reports, but it's also a tool that our high school counselors, FA teachers, staff, parents can see, how their students are progressing. So we can share it with the board, but our main focus for the student and the parent to know where they are when it comes to being on track to graduate.
And since it's new, when does the parent get training to access it?
So we haven't put that on the schedule. The schedule is packed for this semester, and so we want to get it stood up this semester, and then second semester be able to dive into the data at the buildings.
So if the parents aren't accessing data, you're the only one accessing it, staff, the first semester?
So it'll have to be built out, and then we'll be able to allow parents to access it second semester.
Yep.
Yes. But we have to purchase it and then put it, expand, like it'll take some time to put it on the system, and then parents should have access by second semester.
Okay. So if it takes time, when will you staff have access to it?
We'll have access to it as soon as we stand it up. So depending on the implementation time for Infinite Campus, knowing that it's the start of the school year and that there's demands for them as well, we got to get on their roadmap to get it stood up.
Okay.
Rachel, do you have a question?
So I don't really, I guess, maybe I have a question. I will say that I am currently at this phase not a fan of Infinite Campus, and I believe that there is plenty of staff and parents and students that would support me in that. There are currently operations within Infinite Campus underneath our current plan that we're not actually able to access. As a parent, I can go into Infinite Campus on the app and click on the academic progress report. It then gives me nothing. My understanding previously was it was supposed to give me something that helps me detail that information as far as the credits that are also in Infinite Campus. It doesn't do that. And then I guess my other question is back in October of last year, Ms. Flores brought forth a presentation for another program that was supposed to do something similar to what you're saying these added analytics will do. And it was, but it was, the correlation then was directly to Diploma Plus in identifying pathways and interests for students that would then allow parents and students to be able at conferences to be able to share. And so I'm conflicted now because now we're saying we need something else, but it's supposed to be the same feature. And I'm so sorry. It was when you were talking that made me think about this.
Yeah.
That made me remember that program in this exact conversation because we talked about individual plans of study and we also talked about the profile of students and we would be able to share. And you probably know at this
Zello.
point.
Zello.
Thank you.
And Zello is different. This is predictive analytics. Zello is actually, we're required by the state for every student to have an individual plan of study. Zello is where their individual plan of study and how they can explore pathways. Like that's front-end student using that, but it's not necessarily predicting when you look at all of these things, whether they will graduate or if they're,
So are we doing predicting or we're doing actuals?
you have to do both. Like, so right now, we can look at students and make assumptions about like what's happening. We want all of our students to graduate. So we're required for all students to have an individual plan of study. So that's why we have Zello, which is very different than the predictive analytics. The predictive analytics will allow us to intervene more strategically. So if there's a student that has behavior, attendance, and low grades or something, and we're looking at that, but based off of all of the things that this is saying, it will allow parents and staff to know, like, we've got to do something because students who typically, not just in our system, because they're looking at it in all of their systems, who have this mix in fourth grade, typically will not graduate. So we may not be looking at a fourth grader with all of these components and thinking, if we don't, like, we would miss students. Like, we do a good job with the interventions, but this will help us to catch some of those students that may be flying under our radar, or some of those, because it's like their analytics is based off all of the students in their system.
So then as you're talking, it makes me think, and I'm really just trying to get to a place where we don't have all of these systems that are doing all these different things. Then it takes me back to the attendance behavioral system that's like First Five or something
Five
where
Lab.
I could.
5 Lab.
Listen, thank you. I'm
Yeah,
getting
go
there.
for it.
I'm getting there. My brain is starting to put it all
Yeah.
together. Isn't that the system that
Yeah,
does
so,
that same thing
so
that?
there's a
That's
few-
going away. Yeah.
There's a few ways to do early warning systems. We could set thresholds to say, hey, attendance, chronic absenteeism, let's set it at 20%. Anybody who's over or under that, we set at, certain warnings, early warning system. There's also predictive analytics to say, here's all the students that have gone through our system. Here's a group that's graduated, here's a group that hasn't graduated. Now let's back map that and see, let's look at the data and see, okay, what are those thresholds based on who graduated, who didn't graduate? And are these students, fourth grade students, are they more like the ones who graduated or more like the ones who didn't graduate? And in what areas? And so we're setting thresholds differently based off of those predictive analytics so that we can intervene and target it a little more. So we'll still have, Panorama has early warning type system where it is thresholds. And we will classify, this one is going to be predictive analytics, so it gives us a different view of it based on getting to that graduation point. Did that help at all?
No, it led to more questions.
You do.
And I
sit
could
down.
see your heads. So here's, in a nutshell, is it's a part of Infinite Campus, and I know like all student information systems have their strengths and their weaknesses. So if that is something that the board would like us to explore and give options about different student information systems, we can pull the things and have them to come share that. But Infinite Campus and all of them are the same. Like you buy a package, they evolve and get better and they offer other modules, or you either didn't purchase those modules when you purchase the system. So as long as parents know how to log into Infinite Campus, like you clicked on something and it didn't work and it should work, but we can go back and double check that. Those tabs may show up, and if we own those modules and we are keeping the data in it and is active, it should work for you. So some of it may be internal things that we may need to look at, and some of it may be we don't own those modules, so it's not accessible. But as far as the parent, it's you activating your account, logging on, and clicking whatever the tab is. That won't change for parents. The parts that they can input information, they already have access to that full suite. These will just be like view-only tabs. If that helps with it, as long as it's Infinite Campus. If we're talking about something else, it's another system. But Infinite Campus, I just want to make that clear point. It's our student information system, and it's what we can expand on and streamline. When you mentioned 5 Labs, I don't know if this didn't exist for Infinite Campus or either we didn't know about it. So 5 Labs, when that contract expires, that will go away, correct?
Yeah.
So that one will go away. But there is, we gotta like approve it to get in their queue to get it ready. So when 5 Labs goes away at the end of the year, there's not a gap and we have that part, yeah.
I have a question. Who is going to train people? Because there seems to be a little problem. We still have a number of parents who don't know how to work Infinite Campus, and they should have gotten some training. So if we're going to add something else, who's going to be trained? When will they be trained? Give us some information like that.
Yeah.
We keep buying these things, and then people are saying they don't know how to use them.
Yeah, so all of our schools and now with our enrollment center, we train all parents at any time. So if there's ever a parent who does not know how to access Infinite Campus, but the schools do it at like their curriculum nights, they do it when they have parent back to school nights. When parents came in to register, they received the information then. So truly, Infinite Campus really is your log on and your password, and then it's clicking. Now, when you're inputting information, we do provide support either at the school or here with the Welcome and Enrollment Center. So if you know parents who are, and we can continue to do a better job, and we could have some specific nights, like if you just want to know how to navigate Infinite Campus, we can work with the Welcome and Enrollment Center and also the schools. We have a better turnout at the schools than at a central location. So that's something because schools have all kind of nights, we can tell them to include that part and maybe deploy support here or make sure that staff has it there. But that's one of the first things you have to do in order to register your student is to activate your Infinite Campus account.
And I only brought that up because we're still getting texts from people saying they need more help. They don't really know how to do this.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I'm not saying they're not doing it, but we keep hearing,
Right.
how to do this, I need some help. And then if we're going to add something else new, who's getting trained? When are they being trained? We need to know that.
So once they know how to access it, it's all under the same system. So if people are reaching out to you or sending texts to you, please send them my way and we'll get them the support that they need to access it. Because it's all, Infinite Campus is not like this is one login, this is another. It's all under the same. So once they learn how to access it and navigate it, we can continue to provide support. So I would say direct that to me and we'll get them to the right.
So when are they going to be trained on what he's introducing now?
That would be,
take place?
so if they, once it is in there and they log in, it'll be a tab that says graduation predicted analytics. You click on it and it would give you a number. Like they won't have to do anything with that information because that's just information provided like, here's your child's schedule. So it'll be something that they can view only. They won't be able to manipulate it or be asked to do anything with that. It's just, it is information.
Because we keep adding pieces. And you would think by now we kind of know what do we need.
Yeah.
Because what's it going to be at the next semester? Did we miss another piece? We're going to add that? So you just kind
So
of,
here's what I will say. As systems get better at analytics, like, we can either stay stagnant or we can evolve and provide this information. And one of the things that I hear you all on a regular basis about specific data, about that information. So I will say we probably eternally, as long as their systems are improvement, we should be improving, because if that information is out there and we don't provide it to our parents, you all ask really, really good questions around data and information, and we go back and reflect and say, so how can we present this? So if we don't have that and it's a part of the system, we will be bringing it forward. What I will take responsibility for is really front-loading, like when these things are coming. In some areas, we have done that, but I can own that, and we can front-load it more and say, this is coming, it's a part of Infinite Campus. There's no additional training, parents just need to know how to log on. So, but I will say, I can't say we're not gonna be, like, as systems improve and evolve and technology improves and evolve, we have to adjust, or it'll cause some different types of challenges.
no, I get that. I just want to make sure we're getting our bang for our buck. We're doing it. Show us some data, show us something. Is it working? Or do we need to go to something else? You know, what's working, what's not working, and have some data to back it up.
And I don't want to beat a dead horse, but I will just say, I don't think my issue is more or less in us continuing to evolve, but my issue is in how many systems do we have doing the same thing, and then also the capacity internally to actually provide significant training, because we can purchase and stay up to speed, but if people are like, I don't even know what I was learning from the last update, then it's not purposeful. So then it is like, we should stay stagnant until we can get everyone up. Those are my two main concerns with TIS, and I sent you an email and all of those things. But I guess that's where I am with it, is I want to make sure we're consolidating, not adding more. I understand the process of taking something offline and upgrading it, but I also have concerns about our internal capacity to move forward and train people correctly. I do want to get with that. I do want to give you kudos. I've heard nothing but great reviews about the iPad training that happened for staff. So keep up that great work, because when we say yes to things, I want to see the training happen and staff be like, yes, I understand how to utilize these things. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think we're on the same page. So new teachers got trained on Canvas when?
Infinite Campus, when they were onboarded, that's how they keep their grades, take attendance. Like, that's a part of the onboarding process for all staff who has to utilize it.
Yeah, I think we had some issues last year with new teachers not telling parents they didn't know, so we can follow
No,
up on
that may be, yeah.
Yeah. I guess the last comment and request, if it is so vital, then I don't believe it is, I don't think we had the luxury of waiting till second semester.
So that is, we have to follow what our capacity is, and then also Infinite Campus has to onboard us. And so looking at that timeline, that's, if we don't get in the queue now, it's not, like, they have other clients, they have, like, those, all of those things take time to roll out. So that's why it's here now.
So I guess my question is, should this have been purchased in May?
So we had internal dialogue about the systems that we currently have, evaluating and looking at how to shift things around and what was coming up. And so, I mean, those talks are ongoing internally, and this is just kind of a byfactor of that, right? Of us getting to this point and making decisions.
Yeah, because we had a system that does some things similarly, so we had to talk internally about if we're getting this, what are we, because what we have discussions around, of what are we going to stop doing, or what does this replace? And so there was, you all mentioned a couple of things, so we needed to evaluate to make sure that it was not duplication. How do we streamline it so it's not a different system? And this is how the team landed on, let's use what Infinite Campus has so that we don't have this other one. So,
Let me,
yeah.
help me remember, excuse me, did we ever receive that, for lack of a better word, chart that set the timelines of when programs, I think I remember you all presenting something that we would save X amount as, as systems roll over and expire. I don't remember, maybe I missed that meeting.
Are you talking about the contract ending component?
Of our software and things like, did we ever get
Sway
that?
360.
Yeah, so it was attached to one of the end of the weeks of all of the system. Majority of them were systems around leadership and learning that are doing more academic analytics. There may have been some other, but the report that we got back from them was attached to one of the, I can get the date, but it was an
Okay.
end of the week.
So then would these two additions actually replace something so that document would be updated?
Which two?
The Sway 360 report.
So campus analytics, is that what you're asking?
Yeah, the two that are on here, they're
Oh,
replacing
and
5
workflow?
live, yeah.
Yeah, so campus analytics would replace 5 labs. 5 labs will be dropping off. And then we also onboarded Panorama that does something similar to 5 labs when it comes to a few of those dashboards. And so the combination of those two will give us more information with the predictive analytics, but 5 labs is what falls off.
So I guess my request to you then is to update that document with these and any others that you're thinking about. So,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So could I get a motion, and thank you for the discussion, it's enlightening everyone in what we're doing. Could I get a motion to approve H and I?
So moved. Just H,
agenda?
just H, so move.
H.
I haven't asked questions about I yet.
Oh, okay.
You have any, okay.
Go ahead and work
I'm sorry,
H.
to approve the Infinite Campus Analytics, for which is H in our consent agenda.
So moved. Second.
And moved and seconded, could we have the vote, please?
Discussion. What are we voting on, H and
H,
I?
no, just H.
Just H,
The
okay.
Infinite Campus
Thank you.
Analytics. Any other discussion? Thank you. Leslie?
Yolanda Clark,
Wanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries,
Janie Humphries, yes.
Randy Lopez,
Randy Lopez, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page,
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Rachel Russell,
Rachel Russell, yes.
Dr. Nguyen.
Dr. Nguyen, yes.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I thought we were discussing both at that time. So
That's all
now
right.
we will go ahead and discuss the Infinite Campus workflow for discussion.
And similarly, the similar questions are, this will replace what outside software?
So currently, we have a few high schools that are using an outside software for tardy tracking that is external to our system that we connect to. So that would keep this internal all within Infinite Campus, but it also adds more features that allows for attendance, for parents to be able to report attendance through the app instead of calling the attendance secretary and sometimes waiting on hold or not getting through. And so we improve some of the processes there.
And once again, how soon will parents be able to use this attendance app?
Same answer as before. It goes through this, gets approved, we're on the roadmap so that we can then get it stood up. And then we can roll out a plan once we have the dates secured of when it's operational to then get training out there for how to utilize it.
And I'm sure there's a cost to those other 2 or however many outside software?
There is, the high schools do pay for that right now. And so we'd be able to give that back to their budgets because we're
Okay.
taking on this expense.
All right, so I look forward to being informed.
Thank you. Any other
I'm gonna,
discussion?
yeah, I'm gonna throw you a different question, but it's related to this products piece because as we're talking about Infinite Campus, so Infinite Campus currently houses transportation information such as like your bus number, your pickup to and from.
Yep.
However, you have to use another system to track the buses. And since we're talking about putting things together, does Infinite Campus not provide? Okay, thank you.
Unfortunately not. We want to streamline it as much as possible because it does help our staff not have to deal with multiple systems and integrating. It takes a big burden off. So getting it all in one system is a benefit to us. And we would have loved if they still had that module, but unfortunately,
Okay,
they don't.
thank you.
Anyone else?
So since it doesn't start till the second semester, is someone going to go back and put in all that information, the attendance clerk from the first semester, in this system that you have?
We'll look at importing that data to update it. So taking it from one system and importing it to another.
Thank you. Anyone else? So may I get a motion?
So move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Leslie?
Yolanda Clark,
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries,
Janie Humphries, yes.
Randy Lopez,
Randy Lopez, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page,
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Rachel Russell,
Rachel Russell, yes.
Dr. Nguyen.
Dr. Nguyen, yes.
Thank you. We're now ready for communications. First started with Dr. Stubblefield.
Good evening, everyone. I just have a few announcements and reminders. First, I apologize, I meant to say this at the top of the meeting. If you need translation services, we do have translation available in Spanish, Nepali, Swahili, Karen, and Burmese. But sorry, normally Randy says that, but I forgot to give it to Ms. Drew. So we do have those options available. I do want to start off by saying welcome back to all of our students and families. As many of you know, we started school last week. We're excited to have everyone back as we continue to focus on getting better every day. I've had the pleasure of visiting a little less than half of our schools so far and look forward to visiting the rest in the coming weeks. And I do want to say thank you to our staff, students, and family for your support and understanding as we navigate these extreme temperatures. I personally visit the 5 schools that had either a few rooms and or areas with some challenges. And when I checked in, we either had resolved them or had some form of mitigation in place. Doug is here. He can talk in more specifics. In addition, we did not have any outdoor or practices or recesses during the day. And if there are issues with busing or walking or those types of things, please let us know and we'll try to resolve them. Our staff is working to ensure that all of our students and families are safe. I also visited several schools that did not have any issues, and they did have contingency plans in place for indoor recess and those sorts of things. And then I want to give a shout out to Krista Wasson for being recognized by the Royals for organizing the annual Wyandotte County Back to School Fair. She was honored by sitting in the Buck O'Neill Legacy seat at Kauffman Stadium, and she was nominated, or they chose to recognize her because when they came out and saw the partnerships that were pulled together and the amount of families that were served, they wanted to take the time to recognize her. So congratulations to her. I also want to say to families, we've communicated this out, but we'll continue to communicate it out. Every child in the state of Kansas from birth to age 5 can receive free books every month. This is in all thanks to Dolly Parton's Imagination Library and the KSDE and our governor. Each child enrolled in the program receives 1 book per month until his or her 5th birthday at no cost to families. There's no better way to kick off the new school year than encouraging the habit of reading. For more information, please visit imaginationlibrary.com, and you just have to enter your information, and they send it directly to your home. So if you know families, they do not have to be connected to the district or even a student in the district to receive the free book a month. Also, this is a reminder to families to be aware of the Kansas Education Enrichment Program that provides back to school assistance for families in Wyandotte County and throughout the state. Also known as the KEEP program, parents and guardians can take advantage of a one-time award of $1,000 per child to cover a variety of academic enrichment opportunities like the purchase of curriculum and education materials, including school supplies and certain technology devices, camps with academic-related curriculum such as music, art, science, technology, mathematics, and engineering, tutoring, language classes, and musical instruments and lessons. We have also advertised this through our communication and on our website, and we'll continue to advertise it as long as the funds are available. And be sure to tune into KMBC Channel 9 Thursday morning around 6:45 a.m. as they shine a spotlight on Sumner Academy. It's part of Channel 9's Banding Together campaign, which helps celebrate the back-to-school season. Johnny Rowlands and the new Shopper 9 will be on the Sumner's football field, where the district all-star band will also perform. Last year, some of you may remember it was here at Sligo, so we are thankful for them continue to highlight KCKPS by showing some of our different schools. And lastly, I want to give a big shout out to Laurel Bruni Elementary School. The school has been featured in the back to school promotion advertisement on KSHB Channel 41. The promo features all of the morning show news anchors welcoming students back to school, and the promo will be airing for the next several weeks. So thanks everyone for all you're doing to get the school year off to a great start.
Thank you. Mr. Lopez, do you have any comments?
Thanks, Ms. Drew. Just a couple of brief ones I'll share. Again, want to just thank everyone who's helped us to get our kids back in our schools, and really excited to start the new academic school year. Thank you to everybody who helped to plan and execute Convocation. It was a great turnout, great event, great energy. So I know it was a little warm, but thank you to everybody who participated, and it was a great way to kick off. Thank you to Mr. Birch and all of your team and everyone else who was a part of planning and executing that day. It was a lot of fun. I also want to say thank you to the Wyandotte and Sumner PTSA who held a tailgate for their staff and teachers. I was able to attend briefly, and it was just a great way for them to do something that made their teachers and staff all feel welcome. Principals were there, teachers, other staff members. And it was just great to be a part of that and feel that positive energy as they start the school year back up. So thank you to those two PTSAs who did a combination event. And Ms. Russell was there, so it was great to share some time with board members as well that participated. And then I just wanted to, again, just thank everybody who was a part of the Bethel Early Childhood Center ribbon cutting. I believe that was last week. So it's great to see such a beautiful facility opened up for our students and families. We know the importance of early education, and so great to have a facility that's open for them and that's updated and for our staff as well. And just a big shout out to our community. We couldn't have done this without you, to all of our taxpayers, to everyone who was a part of that initial bond that helped to make that happen. So thank you to our community for your support, so that our students have, our little ones have a great space to learn. So, and thank you, Ms. Drew, for taking the reins today and helping us get through the meeting.
Thank you. Any other board members? Ms. Brownlee Page?
Yes, I had the opportunity to start the school year off by visiting Bertram Carruthers. Miss Molly, who's the principal, gave me a tour. I sat in Mrs. Rose Pleasant's class. Can't read my own writing. Mr. Davison, Miss Woodson, and Miss Taylor. And Miss Woodson, I taught her when she was in the 6th grade. So that was refreshing and fun to sit in with her students. I went to Carl B. Bruce, and Ms. Chapman gave me a tour of the building, some of the new innovative things they're trying to do, and how they set up like teams, so when their kids go to high school, they already know the different houses. And then I met with some of the 7th and 8th grade team, and they were excited. And I can say that about all the schools that I got a chance to visit this opening week. And everyone's excited, they were on task. They did what we normally do for those who know about teaching, get to know them, get them to know you, what's the protocol, what's the procedures, and everyone did an excellent job. I went to Grant and spoke with Dr. Calvert, and again, we toured. I got a chance to sit in Mr. Smiley and Miss Odom's classroom. I went to Sumner and talked to Mr. Malone, and Mr. Batiste gave me a tour and got to visit 3 of the classes. And I finally made it over to Rosedale. Mr. Helm fussed at me every year. I never got there, and I was really impressed with some of the things that they're doing over there and the way the building has been reconstructed. Took me a while to see it, but I finally made it there, and I enjoyed visiting with him. And I also went to Harmon and also got to talk to Mrs. Carter about some of the things that they're doing, and got a chance to sit in on a couple of classes. So my goal this year is to get out more and to see what's going on and talk to teachers about some of their concerns and some things they'd like to see us do. So I think everybody's on the right track. Got a lot of young men, which is very impressive. We need more men in our schools. Not to say that women are important, they're not doing their jobs, but we need to see some more male figures in our schools. So I was really impressed with the young men that I met.
Thank you.
Oh, and I forgot one thing. We lost one of our former teachers. Betty Adams taught at Wyandotte High School. She was my teacher, and I taught her son, Morris Letcher, who was a sergeant in the fire department. And she also taught at West Middle School and was a librarian at West Middle School. So we want to remember her family, because she was always giving, helping anybody or anyone, even though she retired. So just kudos to her family.
Thank you. Rachel?
Yeah, thank you. First, I just want to say that 3 of the 7 board members have birthdays in August, so August must be that month. So I just wanted to say happy birthday, Randy, happy birthday, Maxine, and of course, happy birthday to myself. So, you're welcome, I know, I got to be the extra one. I also had the privilege to attend convocation, but also got to go to the SPED Kids First kickoff, where I also almost fell off the stage because I was not paying attention to where the stairs were, but hey, it happened. But it was really exciting. I'm excited for the huddles and everything that will happen in the SPED department, and want to continue to encourage all of us in all of our circles to continue to have open lines of communication with our staff. I think that's something that Dr. Lowry talked about, but also was like people enjoyed it, people showed up. So how do we continue to create spaces, even on smaller teams, to have those opportunities to talk with staff? So that was really a takeaway, both professionally, but also district-wide, that I think we can do a better job of as we get better every day. I've had the privilege of attending Lindbergh, Carruthers, Grant, as well as sending my own children off to Rosedale Middle School and my final child to pre-K at Silver City. And so it just truly, as mentioned by many people, it has been exciting to see the hallways filled, to see kids getting off of the bus, smiley faces, the excitement for the new school year ahead, and I look forward to seeing us continue that excitement as the school year continues. I want to offer my, again, my welcome back and thank you for choosing KCKPS. Sorry, let me do that again. For choosing KCKPS, we are excited and glad that you're here. But as we are experiencing hot temperatures, places that don't have the opportunity, or one group of people who don't have the opportunity to kind of do air condition and all of those things, are our bus drivers. And so I just want to extend my continued gratitude and appreciation for them and the work that they are doing to make sure our kids get to school safely, but also all the other things that they do on the buses each and every day, as well as our nursing staff. So thank you all for all that you do. And then my last thing I will say is my little reminder tangent that it's important that us as community members show up for our students. So as kids are starting to have performances and activities and athletic games and concerts and all of the things, not just those of us at this table, but everyone should be showing up for our students and cheering them on and showing that we are all truly here for them so that we are better every day. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I would just like to add a compliment to our staff. I've heard nothing but great things about the way the school year has started, the different events that have taken place, the way that the staff have rallied around our staff. So I just want to appreciate that, show you appreciation there. And then also as a parent, the amount of communication that has come out is very clear, very clean. I understand exactly what's happening. I'm not confused. And so I just want to show appreciation to our staff as well. I can definitely see that we've headed in some great directions.
Thank you.
I just want to emphasize again the $1,000, what is it? It's not a grant, I guess,
I mean, it's just.
$1,000 available.
Yeah.
So is that application on our webpage?
The information is on our webpage of how to access it. Is that correct, Edwin? Yes.
Okay, is there any way we can make it easier? If we can, let's try to make it easier because it's there for parents, and $1,000 may not be a lot, but it is per child. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, again, want to thank all of our board members for your comments and things that are going on. This is a new year. It's a new way in which we can be better every day, not just with students, but staff, but everyone. And hopefully, as time progresses, we will see a great change coming within our school district. We won't be looking back, but we will be moving forward and looking forward at the greatness that is going to come within our schools. So just wanted to let you know that on Saturday, August 26th, I will be driving to Topeka, Kansas, to represent our school district with the legislative committee so that we can look at some current things that are going to be coming up that we can address with our officials in Topeka. So hopefully we'll be able to move forward with this year with some great things that are going to come in the way of helping our students in the right way. So at this particular time, we are ready for community comment. And just want to go over this briefly for a few moments, is that we're asking that the speakers limit their remarks to 3 minutes. Our board is not going to respond. We will just be here to listen. You will be timed and advised when your time has been expired. So at this point, we are going to have our first person to come up, and that is Jima Castaneda. If I miss anything, correct me, please. Okay.
Buenas tardes, miembros de la Junta Directiva de la Escuela Pública de Kansas City, Kansas. Mi nombre es Gema Castañeda y soy madre de un estudiante de la preparatoria. Estar aquí no es fácil, pero es necesario para traer justicia a mi hija y a las muchas otras niñas estudiantes que han pasado por lo mismo y que siguen estando en riesgo. Si el distrito no pone atención a los daños irreversibles y a las consecuencias de las malas acciones y de la falta de acción. Mi hija siempre ha sido una muy buena estudiante, con participación y certificados de la Universidad de Kansas City por su programa en asociación con el distrito. Ha estado en la lista de honor muchas veces y participó en los programas de Saturday Academy, Ciencia Summer Academy con reconocimiento. Ha recibido diplomas por su asistencia y puntualidad. En noviembre del año 2022 va caminando y unos estudiantes la acorralaron, la manosearon contra su voluntad. Mi hija luego fue con la consejera, quien no le ayudó, y luego con la policía de la escuela. Se revisaron las cámaras y se confirmó el ataque. Se hizo un reporte a la escuela y otro a la policía. De acuerdo con el código de conducta del estudiante, este ataque califica con la clase cuarta, agresión física y agresión sexual con consecuencias fuertes. Los agresores siguieron en la escuela, mi hija también, pero la violencia que sufrió le dañó mucho psicológicamente. Recibió apoyo en Sunflower House. Mi hija pasó de ser una estudiante con futuro académico exitoso a dejar de ir a la escuela. Ahora, con mucha ayuda externa y no del distrito, ha logrado inscribirla a la academia virtual. Esta no es la solución, pero es la única opción que no le pone en peligro. Yo les pido que hagan su trabajo de educar a los estudiantes, de darle a mi hija las oportunidades que merece y que le den la consejería y los servicios a los que tiene derecho. Y también que la comunicación del distrito con las familias sea inmediata, de calidad y en nuestro idioma. Es nuestro derecho. Este incidente mal manejado no debe interrumpir su derecho a una educación pública de calidad, y no solo a ella, sino todas las demás niñas que han pasado por cosas similares. Gracias. Atentamente, Gema Castañeda.
Translation. Good afternoon, Kansas City Public School Board members. My name is Gema Castañeda, and I am the parent of a student. Being here is not easy, but it's necessary to bring justice to my daughter and the many other female students who have gone through the same thing and who continue to be at risk in the district, if the district does not pay attention to the irreversible damage and consequences of wrongdoing and inaction. My daughter has always been a very good student with certificates of participation from the University of Kansas for their programs in partnership with the district. She has been on the honor roll many times and participated in the Saturday Academy Science Summer Academy programs with recognition. She has received diplomas for attendance and academic excellence. In November 2022, she took the stairs and ran into male students who cornered her, assaulted her, and grabbed her against her will. My daughter then went into the counselor, who did not help her, and then to the school police. The cameras were reviewed, and the attack was confirmed. A report was made to the school and another to the police. According to the Student Code of Conduct, this attack qualifies as a Class 4 physical assault and sexual assault with severe consequences. The aggressors continue to be in a school. My daughter did too, but the violence she suffered damaged her psychologically. She received support at Sunflower House. My daughter went from being a student with a successful academic future to dropping out of school. Now, with a lot of outside help, and not from the district, I have been able to enroll her in the virtual academy. This is not the solution, but it is the only option that does not put her at risk. I ask that you do your job of educating students, giving my daughter the opportunity she deserves, and give her the counseling and services she is entitled to. And also that the district's communication with families be prompt, with quality and in our preferred language. It is our right. This terrible mishandled incident should not interrupt her right to a quality public education, and not only for her, but for all the girls who have gone through similar things. Thank you in advance. Gema Castañeda.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'd just like to say that we're sorry to hear that this happening, and there will be follow-up from our staff. We'll be in touch with you to let you know what the end results will be. Thank you. We have our next comment coming from Nancy Cortez on parent communication.
Buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Nancy Cortés y soy la madre de un estudiante de la prepa Wynot. Aunque mi hija nació en Estados Unidos, su educación básica fue en México. Regresó a este país hace un par de años a estudiar el high school y desde que entró a KCK, todo se fue para abajo. Mi hija nunca se ha sentido bienvenida en este entorno educativo y por lo contrario, la cultura de pertenencia de esa escuela no solo no es saludable, es demasiado dañina. El liderazgo de la escuela la perfiló y la acusó sin evidencia de acciones que ella no hizo. Ha sido suspendida varias veces sin debido proceso. En un momento, un administrador de la escuela le dijo: "Los mexicanos traen drogas a este país", acusando a mi hija de tener drogas. Ni la misma intérprete de la escuela quiso decir a mi hija en español lo que la administradora había dicho, porque cabe mencionar que mi hija no habla inglés bien. En otra ocasión me dijeron que mi hija estaba fumando marihuana dentro de la escuela, pero no la quisieron revisar. Yo le dije que mi hija estaba limpia y que le hicieran la prueba. No quisieron, entonces yo la hice. Mi hija salió negativa. El liderazgo de la escuela violó la ley FERPA cuando le enseñó a otros padres de familia el perfil de Infinity Campus con foto de mi hija y les dijeron que no dejaran a sus hijos asociarse con mi hija tras una falsa acusación. Rechazada y discriminada por adultos de la escuela, la llevó a sentirse aislada. Mi hija empezó a asociarse con personas y actividades nocivas y tristemente cayó en el consumo de sustancias. Los últimos 2 años han sido terribles para ella, pero gracias a las lecciones de la vida y otros apoyos, ahora se encuentra rehabilitada. Ha tenido apoyo de Sunflower House y Pieces. Hoy estoy aquí para exigir las siguientes cosas. El distrito escolar tiene que hacer una investigación profunda sobre el liderazgo de Wynot y la manera en la que perfilan, discriminan y maltratan a los estudiantes y a sus padres. Mi hija es English learner y no se le han dado los servicios a los que tiene derecho. Mi hija merece educación pública de calidad en persona, pero no en la escuela asignada. Necesita ir a otra escuela como Schlegel. Urge que el distrito autorice esta solicitud. Mi hija necesita que el distrito desarrolle un plan individualizado de salud para ella. Por mi hija y los hijos de muchos más padres que se han sentido discriminados y rechazados en KC, por eso estoy aquí. Gracias.
Translation.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Nancy Cortez, and I am the mother of a high school student. Although my daughter was born in the United States, most of her education was in Mexico. She returned to this country a couple of years ago to attend high school, and since she entered KCKPS, everything has gone downhill. My daughter has never felt welcome in that educational environment, and on the contrary, the culture of belonging to that school is not only unhealthy, it is harmful. School leadership profile and accuse her without evidence of actions she did not take. She's been suspended several times, OSS, without due process. At one point, a school administrator told her Mexicans bring drugs into this country, accusing my student of having drugs. not even my student daughter of having drugs. Not even the school interpreter herself would tell my daughter's Spanish what the administrator had asked. What the administrator had said. Because it is worth mentioning that my daughter does not speak English well. My daughter asked for a search of her belongings to prove that it was not true, and her did not search her. I'm sorry, I need to clarify this. This has to do with the accusation of her using marijuana. I was told that my daughter's. On another occasion, I was told that my daughter was smoking marijuana inside the school, but they did not want to check her. I told them that my daughter was clean and to test her. They didn't want to, so I did it. My daughter tested negative. School leadership of this school violated FERPA when they showed other parents of the Infinite through the Infinite Campus profile with my daughter's picture, and told them not to let children associate with my daughter after this false accusation. Rejected and discriminated against by these adults led her to feel isolated. My daughter began to associate with harmful people and activities and sadly fell into substance abuse. The last 2 years have been terrible for her. But thanks to life's lessons and support services, she is now rehabilitated. She has received support from Sunflower House and PACES. I am here today to demand the following things. The school district needs to do a thorough investigation into the leadership of the schools and the way that they profile, discriminate, and mistreat students and their parents. My daughter is an English learner and has not been given the services she's entitled to. My daughter deserves quality public education in person, but not at her assigned schools. She needs to go to another school like Schlegel. It is urgent that the district authorize this request. My daughter needs the district to develop an individualized health plan for my daughter and the children of many more parents who have been discriminated against and rejected at their high school. That is why I am here. Thank you. Nancy Cortez.
Thank you. We'd like to thank you for bringing the information, and as before, our staff will follow up with the information. We ask that would you please leave your name and address and phone number to our board clerk so that we can make sure that we do follow up. Thank you. This time, we have one more from Edgar, and please forgive me for mispronouncing your name, and I'm not going to say it, who is here about district communications.
Good evening, buenas tardes. My name is Edgar Palacios. Before I even get to that, good evening, board members.
Good evening.
Dr. Stubblefield and KCKPS community members. My name is Edgar Palacios, and I am the founder of Revolución Educativa, an advocacy organization dedicated to building sustained collective power within the Latino community around education-related matters. The stories that you've heard are just two examples of many stories that we encounter with working with families. In working specifically with KCKPS families, 29 to be exact since the beginning of the calendar year, our team has identified critical concerns that demand your immediate attention and resolute action. RevEd has also engaged in listening sessions as well as partnered on Capacitación Educativa events, which have created access to at least 300 families, mostly Spanish dominant. First and foremost, there is an evident communication breakdown between the district and the families we collectively serve. Parents and caregivers are grappling with the lack of communication from the district after enrolling their children. This void of information leads to unnecessary stress and hampers our unified efforts to support student growth and success. Parents and caregivers are also struggling with Infinite Campus, and there does not seem to be any formal training for its effective usage, particularly for Spanish-speaking families. Some families also lack the digital literacy necessary to engage successfully with the tool, and there are no alternative options presented. We also have complaints regarding insufficient communication from the special education team, which raised concerns about inclusivity and support. And I also cannot underscore enough the great concern for safety that some of the families that we serve experience in KCKPS. Your dedication to listening, comprehending, and implementing necessary changes is pivotal. RevEd stands ready to work alongside you, leveraging our collective strength to foster an environment where each student thrives without exception. In closing, I urge you to recognize the urgency of this moment and seize the opportunity to create a legacy of exceptional education, equitable communication, and unwavering support for all students at KCKPS. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And again, we want to make sure that all names and phone numbers and addresses are there with our board clerk so that we can follow up, and our staff will follow up. Hopefully, we will be able to bring closure to the issues that are at hand. Thank you. At this time, we're now ready to go for board updates and approvals. And the first one is relating to asking the Kansas City, Kansas Board of Education to approve the use of Providence working canines to detect contraband and deter illicit substances within and around district facilities. Could I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Seconded. May we have a vote, please? Or it's open for discussion. I'm sorry. Open for discussion. No discussion? So therefore,
Well, hold on for 1 second, please.
So I will just start the discussion by saying that while I'm supportive, I also want to be very clear that it is, we as a community have got to curb the utilization of drugs as well as weapons in our community. However, I and the board is aware of my strong feelings and passion around the prison pipeline system, recognizing that our district primarily serves Black and brown individuals and making sure that families and students and individuals have the supports that they need to be successful. However, that should not come at a disconvenience to the others in our community and in our hallways and in our buildings. And so I want to support the work that we are moving forward ahead, but I do also want to be very intentional of how this is communicated, how this is implemented in our buildings to ensure that folks who are not doing anything don't feel like they're always in trouble as well. And so I just want to open the conversation and lead it with that and say that's where I am, and thank you.
thank you. Anyone else?
You mind?
Ms. Clark.
I would echo what Ms. Russell has said. I also, and I know I've talked to Dr. Wilson about this a lot of times, we are dealing with students, we're dealing with children, and so I echo this, but I've also talked about what support do we give these students. So we recognize there are things, I know they're outlined, and just making sure that we're following and giving our students the most support possible. We just heard, I mean, if you just listen to even the comments that came before us tonight, I just want to make sure that we have a strong support system for our students as things like this are identified. It's one thing to not want to change that behavior or have to get in that place. It's another thing to be hopeless and helpless, and I don't want our students to feel that way. So I agree and support being able to keep our school systems very safe. But again, it's that entire wraparound service that we give our community.
Thank you. Anyone else?
No, I was just going to say, I understand that, but I think we do have to do something. And I like the idea of a letter going out explaining what we're trying to do without giving all the details, but we do need to do something. Because we got one group saying this and another group saying this, and we need to do something, because it needs to stop. And as soon as we can, get it going. And there are other things we got to do. I want to commend our security force. I can say I've seen them in situations, and they're better than I am, because I've seen them be abused by the very same people we're trying to protect. And I didn't see them physically attack, mistreat in any way. They were respectful. And I have to commend the things that I've seen them do. They went beyond the call of duty to make sure that everyone had their rights, to a point where I saw the woman drive over another parent. And I saw our security people beg, plead. We were all out there crying. Please stop. It doesn't have to go to this. But sometimes, and I don't believe that they're just trying to mistreat brown and black people. I saw them be very respectful, bend over backwards to do whatever they could to help. No one's perfect, but I saw them do some things. And I think we got to do something. We got to start both ways. We got to put our foot down, but at the same time, I agree, we got to offer something. Try to do something, some counseling, whatever, to get them involved in to help them. But we do need to do and get started as soon as possible. I think the letters were good. Let's get it going, because we got to stop it some way, somehow.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, can we vote, please?
Yolanda Clark,
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries,
Jenny Humphries, yes.
Randy Lopez,
Randy Lopez, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page,
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Rachel Russell,
Rachel Russell, yes.
Dr. Nguyen.
Dr. Nguyen, yes.
Thank you. Motion passes. Our next is to have a recommendation by the Kansas City, Kansas Board of Education to approve publication of the notice of hearing for the revenue neutral rate and 2023-2024 budget as submitted by Tracy Kaiser, Executive Director of Business and Finance, Steve Lilly, Chief Operations Officer, and recommended by Dr. Anna Stubblefield, Superintendent of Schools.
So move.
Second.
Any comments for discussion?
There was a lot of documents in here that were new. I just want to make sure that I understand what we're just approving today is the notice of the hearing. We're not approving the budget. We're not approving the levy, the mill levy rate. We're not doing any of that.
No, this is just the notice of publication.
Okay.
For those two items.
Thank you. Just wanted to confirm, and then can we share when the actual hearing is? Is it at our next meeting?
It's at our next regular meeting, September 12th. And I will share some of the way it looks is new because we just got it from KSDE on Friday.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Leslie? You will vote?
Yolanda Clark,
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries,
Jenny Humphries, yes.
Randy Lopez,
Randy Lopez, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page,
Wanda Brownlee Page, no.
Rachel Russell,
Rachel Russell, yes.
Dr. Nguyen.
Dr. Nguyen, no.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Motion passes. Now we're ready for new business.
We added C.
And before we look at the graduation rates, Mr. Doug, could you come up and give us some information, please? Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. I wasn't here at the very beginning. You're looking for just a status report of our air conditioning?
Yeah, just an
generally
update.
speaking overall?
Because I know I had a couple people call me.
Oh, I know there's been a lot of
about-
calls, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
what is the status? Do they work? Because
This-
I was in Harmon and half the building was hot and the other half was cool. So I was just wondering what's going on.
Sure. I'm going to paint with a very broad brush, I'll tell you that
Okay.
generally speaking, the systems are working well when I'm looking at all 62 buildings across the district. As Dr. Stubblefield said, there are some challenges. There are some significant challenges. And those, let me say also that having challenges is not unusual. We have challenges every day. But when we have conditions like we have now, the ramifications are magnified, right? And I think we're seeing that. Those challenges also change and fluctuate throughout the day. Like Dr. Stubbles has said, as our technicians, we have 5 guys, very qualified, do a great job, go get their work orders in the morning and jump in their vans and go work on all those sites. For example, Harmon, I'm glad you brought up Harmon. When I first looked at Harmon this morning at 6 o'clock, I was checking online to see what frankly, I thought it looked almost too cool. But then by mid to late morning, you could see those temperatures starting to creep up. By later in the afternoon, we had determined, our guys had determined that and I'm giving you a lot of details, strainer baskets to the cooling towers had plugged. So they were there tonight, got that cleaned out, got the chillers restarted, so we should be good to go tomorrow. And as we try to stay on top of that, so there are some lingering problems. But like I say, generally speaking, we're in pretty good shape, except for these challenges that come up. And I know, for example, Washington was an issue. We have a couple of classrooms. We have 2 in particular. One I know is over 80 degrees. I don't know why that classroom's over 80 degrees. The rest of the classrooms are 72 to 74, maybe 75, but we have one over 80. Another one is not far behind. So those are the things that our guys are working on a daily basis.
And what about Schlegel?
Schlegel is, we're in the process of still changing that chiller. Actually, we have the factory startup guy is going to be there tomorrow to start the first one. He started Eisenhower today. As of right now, Eisenhower is running on that new chiller 100%, and it seems to be operating fairly well. I'm going to be anxious to see what it looks like in the morning. So we'll do that process at Schlegel tomorrow. At both schools, we're operating on one old chiller. And I won't deny that they're struggling to keep up a little bit, but really Schlegel, again, the temperatures have been in that 73, 74 range. I'd like them to be a little bit lower, but we're maintaining. I'm hoping after tomorrow, when that new chiller gets started up, that we'll see significant improvement.
Do we have any, I'm just asking, when it's one part is cool and the other part is warm, do we have fans or something we can put in there?
We actually, we really didn't until today when we were having all these problems with these temperatures like this. We probably delivered 70 fans today. So we'll have those, and yeah, they'll call and we can try to help get that air movement just to get a little bit of relief.
Yeah, and Ms. Page, I will also say in the schools that I visited in the morning, and in the particular with the rooms that were above temperature, the teachers were like, we're fine. And then principals made arrangements for those classes to move to other spaces when that was possible. I was at one school and saw over 20 fans being delivered. They didn't have 20 rooms that needed it, but if teachers wanted it, they had that option. So while they're fixing it, they're also offering, making sure that we try to mitigate it as much as possible by moving them to different spaces and just checking in on them as well. Yeah.
I guess my question, you said you looked at temperatures, so you have a magical device that lets you see all 62 buildings at one time?
Yes.
That's what you were
We have, our district has a building automation system where we can go in and look and see temperatures, how things are operating. The foreman of this particular trade group can go in and actually do some diagnostics. He can see in advance. They can plug computers in at certain places and help them diagnose some things. Yes.
Okay, so does this automation system at any point in the day, does it give you alerts if there's a specific building or something that's, how do you know when to
We get a lot of phone calls.
a warning? Okay.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
but no, I mean, and I'm being a little bit
Well, you can get a lot of
facetious.
phone calls, and you can also go to the
Yeah.
Facebook comments, and
Right,
you can
yeah,
also
no,
see.
I'm being
So,
facetious, and
Okay.
I apologize for that.
Oh, you're
but-
fine.
But
I'm here for it.
we know there's not like an audible alert, right, that will warn us on that, and that's why, again, the trade foreman, he's here at 5 o'clock every morning, and he's checking that. We do get work orders. We do ask the head custodians to be submitting those as emergencies. So he's tracking those, checking in the morning. I'm checking. When I know the conditions are severe like this, we have multiple eyes on those, generally all throughout the day.
So typically, if I'm explaining it, it's like in the morning, you all are checking the overnight temperatures to make sure they're okay, and then you're proceeding to work orders, and then you're like, during the day, actions are the phone calls or the text messages or the emails when I'm like, somebody just texted me and said this is happening.
Right, and
Those-
we'll honestly get multiple, but typically we do ask the principals, you know, to make sure if we have an air conditioning situation, you need to call our shop office, and we'll get somebody, we treat that as an emergency and try to get somebody out there right away.
Okay.
And then, so tomorrow, honestly, it'll be a whole new series, and we'll be checking those in the morning and get those taken care of.
I mean, it's very similar to our home air conditioners, you know, it works really well, and then there's that one day where it decides
When
it's
it works,
not
yeah,
going to.
and you know, it works really well. Honestly, like right now, they just finished over they stayed late to work at Harmon. I have another fella working at Sumner tonight because it looks like it's working really well. The water temps and everything are where they should be, but it's just not cooling the second and third floors like they should. In fact, it's very warm, so we'll get that corrected.
And so then I guess my last question is, there were comments around condensation. So the buildings that experience the condensation, after this heat spell is gone, will we go back and verify or make sure? I know there are just a couple of buildings that had a lot of condensation to confirm that there's no mold growing or those.
Right, we'll do that as best we can, and I've heard the same thing. We've gone out, and that's one of the reasons why we delivered the fans. We want to get that air moving just to help with that dehumidification process.
Okay.
You know, really, this humidity is kind of something else right now.
It's different.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Well, let me ask this question. So did not we install new units, purchase and install new units with some of the extra dollars?
We did, and honestly, some of the problems we're having are warranty issues, and so we're having that crew go out, and I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank on one particular school that we had that issue, so they got there and they addressed that today. Yes,
Okay,
absolutely.
thank you.
And then the only comment I will add, I know I've gotten personally several emails about why I haven't canceled school, and I just want to publicly say we have to weigh like the entirety of our district, which is why we allow parents to make the choices for those who have the capacity to keep their children at home in a cool place and take care of them. But we also have a large contingent of families, if we cancel school, when we know, like, majority of our schools and majority of our classrooms are in ideal conditions, and we don't want to create that extra burden for families who may not have air conditioning or plans in place for childcare. So we're listening to both sides, which is why we are saying to parents, you can make the best decision for your family, and we will excuse those absences, and we're going to track them, and we'll know exactly what percentage of our student body was impacted or made that option. Yeah.
Thank you.
Can I add one more thing? I feel like I'd be remiss, since I have the floor, I'd like to give a shout out to our 5 guys. They are really working, and I tell you what, they are working in some miserable conditions. I have been on the roof when they're working on the rooftop unit there. There is no shade. So I want to give those guys a shout out, and I appreciate your support. Thank you.
We appreciate your impromptu report, and one thing, if I can just add at the end of the week, I think it'd be great to also get an update on what happened at Bethel. I understand the moving parts of it, but just a better understanding of what
About
that
why,
looks like.
yes. I
Thank
can
you.
do that, you bet.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Clements. Well, it's time for us to go to our next, but we need to take a 5-minute break.
Thank you.
And it's at 6:43. We'll take 5 minutes. We'll be back at 6:48. Could I get a motion, please?
So moved.
You don't have to have a
Second.
motion.
Second. Thank you.
don't need a-
We will take a break. Thank you. shall resume our board meeting. Thank you. At this time, we are going to have a presentation, information coming from Dr. Jermaine Wilson in relation to the 2024 graduation dates and locations. Dr. Wilson, thank you.
Board members, as he's coming forward, I'm just reminding everyone, this is a new business item. We'll ask you to take action at the next regular board meeting. And I think most of you had an opportunity to review the options, and our recommendation is for the Sporting KC location. So if you want Dr. Wilson, because I don't think it's uploaded, to walk through it, he could, but if not, we're just open for questions, because new business, we typically don't present. Yeah.
All right. Good evening, President Lopez, Vice President Drew, members of the board, and Dr. Anna Stubblefield, Superintendent of Schools. As Dr. Stubblefield mentioned, we've provided you with 3 options that are in your presentation based on feedback from parents and stakeholders after graduation ceremonies this year, requesting that we have more space for families for seating, and also more opportunities for more families to be able to bring their families that are traveling without restrictions. So we provided 3 proposals that you'll see. One is Memorial Hall. The second one is for Hy-Vee Arena, and then the third is Children's Mercy Park. It is our recommendation that we go with option 3, Children's Mercy Park, for our 5 graduations at F.L. Schlegel, Wyandotte, Washington, Sumner Academy of Arts and Sciences, and J.C. Harmon High School. And then our ceremonies for Alfred Fairfax Academy and Reach 500 being at Washington High School again. Considerations were made for the recommendation based on the cost estimate and the amount of services that would be handled by Children's Mercy Park that would not have to be offset and handled by district personnel for the ceremony. So I am available to answer questions that you might have about any of the proposals.
Any questions?
I don't have a question. I just have a problem with doing 3 on one day. I think that's a little too much. And then you really don't have time as a graduate. You say, and get out, hurry up, get up, gotta get going. And you're clearing them out quick. I mean, they don't really have time to celebrate. And I don't think it's for their convenience. It's more for the people who are working it. And I just think that's too much to do that many in one day, and especially on a Sunday.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion.
No, and I will share, like, when you're working with venues like Hy-Vee Arena and Children's Mercy Park, they are basically saying, here are the dates. Like, they service lots of districts, and we have a short window between the last day for our seniors and the last day for our staff, and these were the dates that were available. Like, we don't necessarily have the option to stretch it out over multiple days. And I hear that, so it's just weighing those components. There was an option that spread it out over the week, and that was Memorial Hall, but it had its own set of challenges as well. So this is our recommendation based off the feedback that we got from the stakeholders.
So I will echo Mrs. Page's thought. And I say this from a place earlier on in the presentation, it says student success, our goals, all of that. And I think at the heart of our concern around the multiple graduations in multiple days is the experience for the graduate and their families. Whether it be parking, whether it be a 1-hour ceremony that doesn't truly engage all of the diversity of one building because they're trying to get, depending on how many names they have to go through, these are things that we have all heard about. And so I struggle with all of the proposals, both either because of the way they're stacked or the building itself, or the outdoors and the rain plan that I'm not really a fan of. And so that's my first piece, is the graduate experience and what we've heard in the times past. I have talked to multiple people who have said our district did it well when we did one graduation a day. And like that was that school's graduations experience. And not just post-COVID, but even prior to COVID. And how it was broken out, I think, in 2 separate weeks, but it was also like within a 5-day range. And so that's another piece. I don't know about the tickets piece, but that's something I'm passionate about. I would like for us to get away from tickets, and whatever it means, whatever facility allows us to do that. I think this is what our students are leading up to. There should not be this number that says this is the number of people that can come to celebrate you and your momentous moment. And then I guess in closing, I have a question around the last day of staff that keeps getting mentioned, the last day that we have staff. And I would like to know what the last day of staff being in the building is.
May.
But then my other question,
It's May 26th.
May 26th, thank you. Then I guess my other statement, because we are on the back end of this yet again, and I think it's been brought up that we have graduations planned out 2 years in advance. I'm hoping that you all are working diligently for 2025 to have that decided and bring it to us by the end of the school year, so that moving into the school year, people know when graduation is, people know where it's going to be held, so we're not always on this like crisis or responsive piece where we're trying to fit in where other districts haven't already. And so I guess when we're looking at the calendars, when we're doing all of that, that would be my proactive suggestion, is that we truly get to a place where we're 2 years in advance, we already know where we're going. So that's all I have. I'm trying to find a place in the middle, but I am not very supportive at all of any of the proposals at this time.
And I'll just give a response. So with many of these places that would host graduation, a big factor that they consider too is breakdown and tear down and reestablishment of a stage. And so when they have graduation seasons or they're set up for graduation, their goal is going to be able to schedule you in a slot where they're not having to break the stage down and then a few days later to pay for contractors to come in and reset the stage for graduation. So that provides some limitation for the dates. I do hear your concern about having the dates out years in advance. Being able to do that also means that the board votes on a calendar year for the upcoming year so that we know seniors' last day and last day of staff, and then we can schedule that out.
And I will add that, honestly, we had looked at not Children's Mercy and Hy-Vee, but we, at the end of the school year prior to graduation, had worked with Kansas City, Kansas Community College and Memorial Hall and secured those dates. And then when we had the situation we had, we went to explore other outdoor venues because that was something that was shared with us. And while Children's Mercy talks about SeatGeeks, it would not mean that we were limiting it. That's just how they track how many people are coming. So students could have unlimited until we reach 5,000, but when you're entering it, that's how they track. Like, they need to know how many people are in their facility for their security purposes and stuff. So I don't think, and Hy-Vee didn't have any, but Children's Mercy, it wouldn't be us limiting it, it's just their tracking system. So students could have unlimited tickets, and we would work with them, because they do it for other schools, on how they just would sign up or just to have it on their device. But that's something that they navigate with multiple students in order to keep track of the number of people in the facility.
I want to follow up on something you just said, because I think it it's processed in my mind. You said in order for us to pick a graduation place, we need to have the calendar committee meeting sooner because it's based on the calendar.
If you wanted to do it 2 years out.
So in order to know for the class of 2025,
Yes.
we need the calendar committee to be working on that.
Yeah. And I will say historically, pre-COVID, I believe here, the calendar, you brought 2 years. Everything was a 2-year rotation. And so we can hopefully get back on that track of like next year, when we bring it sooner than later, bring 24, 25, and 25, 26. And then you can also secure the venue and the dates because you would be committing earlier. We are getting the leftover dates right now. It just, I mean, because other schools had. So right now, this is our reality, and
Yes.
whatever venue we pick with the capacity, we can move forward with once we know the dates of looking at the next 2-year.
I'm gonna go ahead and ask the dumb question. May 19th, is there a reason why we're not doing something earlier in the day and everything's in the afternoon? Is it because people don't like not 11 o'clock hour on a Sunday? I just don't know.
The time, we'll reserve it. If you decide to go with Children's Mercy Park, we have the full day. And so we can schedule the graduation starting at whatever the board's pleasure is.
Okay, I think that would kind of take care of some of what Ms. Page is saying, which I agree with. I just didn't know about an earlier time on a Sunday, so, okay.
And I'm assuming the 18th wasn't available.
The 18th was not available.
So if the weather is bad and it rains, are they out there rain no matter what?
So they have covered areas in the park, and they do this for lots of schools. So the graduates are under a covered area,
Yes.
rain or shine. They're just under one of their covered areas. They put a tent over the stage where we would technically be. And then if you've ever been there, if you move up higher, all of that is covered. So if you think about some of the school districts, I actually think about before I came here where Wyandotte, I think, had to cancel and Piper had theirs, or Piper was able to continue on because they put in their rain contingency and they were able to host it because families could send under the covered area, the graduates were covered. And now if it's like a severe thunderstorm, like they won't let you have it in the park, and then we just would be looking for a makeup date.
So do we have a tentative backup date?
We did not discuss that with them, and we don't, but that,
Wouldn't that kind of make sense to have a backup? I'm not saying it'll do it, but just as a backup. If it
I mean,
would.
we can ask them, I don't know, contract, like, because you really are, so what you're saying is you're really paying for 2 dates, because they're not gonna let you secure it. But that's just not their policy. They're not gonna let you secure it without committing to, so we would be committing double the money, because that's how because if we're holding it, somebody else can't use it.
Okay, well-
So if we wanted a backup and a contingency plan with Children's Mercy's Park particular, what we could do is reserve Kansas City, Kansas Community College, but then you're paying for audio and the potential if you could not do it, and then you're back to tickets. Most districts that host theirs outside have a backup for the same date, and families know in advance it's going to be tickets. If it's severe weather, they'll delay it as long as it's possible. But everybody who's holding it in outside venues run that risk. The good thing about Children's Mercy Park, as long as it's not like torrential storms or lightning, you can move forward with the ceremony in rain. And you can delay it because you have it the whole day, if it's gonna clear up later, so you could have contingencies around the times during the day.
Any other comments?
Is this, today you're not
We're not voting.
taking action.
Right, we're just,
But I do just want clarity on, we can verify, like, we can have a backup date, but I believe we have to pay for it in all of the venues. But we don't have any other options or suggestions. The dates that they share with us are the dates that the venues have available, and there's not much flexibility around that at this current time. If we start to plan for the next year, we can definitely take into consideration, like, the sooner you lock it in, you could lock in different dates, multiple things. And I think, given saying that, I will say if it's at Children's Mercies Park, one of the things when we do it, when we have had it at multiple dates, and it was our staff, it was taxing on our staff, but because it's turnkey, it may be a little different. It's just us showing up on 5 different dates, which is a little different than having, like, the staff who's actually having to work and set up and stuff. So that could be a definite possibility in the future to explore, but we just don't have that option this year because of the limited number of dates.
Well, if we got it all day, can't you bump the times up?
Yeah, now we can come back with some options of spreading it out on those 2 days so there is space. It just, we can do that because people can leave. For those of us who are there, can leave and come back. We definitely can look at those options within the days that we have, yes.
That was what I was going to say. You're talking about delay. When you're scheduling 3 hours apart, you really can't delay something, because then you're going to throw off the whole schedule.
Correct.
And I have to say this, I know there may not be anything we can do about it, but I think it's a disservice to our parents to have 5 p.m. graduations on a workday. That's asking a lot of our parents when some of our schools don't get out till 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
But that's,
So we can bring back options with just one of them being on Friday and bumping the time up and spreading the other 4 on Sunday, because you can't push it back because then you're after 8 o'clock
Yeah.
on Friday. So we can send that and tweak that, and then at the next meeting, we'll get it to you sooner than later so we can have those kind of questions cleared out, like, here's what a schedule looks like to have one Friday, start earlier on Sunday, and spread them out, and this is what it looks like, so that you can look at it and ask your questions and update the slide so that you can vote at the next meeting.
Because on these days, that if we were to reserve them, they wouldn't put another school district or another event on that same day. So we would have the flexibility to adjust as we needed for the times.
So if I'm on, so you're saying that a Hy-Vee Arena has no of it, based on going to proposal 2, we couldn't change our Tuesday board meeting. They don't have availability on Monday and Tuesday?
Tuesday would be the ideal rehearsal day, but Hy-Vee Arena will, so with
We
Children's
don't
Mercy.
do rehearsal the same day while at school anymore?
No. Like this year, there was an alternate day.
Oh, okay.
And the schools still transported students to rehearsal. But for Hy-Vee Arena, the thing, they don't hold, there's not a guaranteed rehearsal date. So Children's Mercy holds the space for you to have a rehearsal date that's in there. For Hy-Vee Arena, this date is open. So ideally, we will put that as the rehearsal date. If another organization decides we want to pay the money and rent out the 21st, then we would be bumped from that date. So it wouldn't be open for us unless we were paying to reserve it on that day as well.
I guess my concern is outdoor graduation for, if I remember correctly, the drive-in, it rained. Memorial Hall, it rained. So I don't think we're setting ourselves up for success. Because then if Sunday, if it's raining, that's 3 graduations we have to refigure out But I'm just not sold on an outdoor venue for graduation, given our past few years and time frame and the weather. It just, to me, it just doesn't make sense. While if everything else made sense and it seemed ideal, I feel like I'd be on board with it. I know other districts have used Children Mercy Park for all the reasons that which I think we're looking at it as well. But when we're stacking it like this, just the logistical nightmare of if it rains doesn't make sense to me, so.
Hy-Vee Arena's only other dates will push us to be 2 weeks before our senior's last day that's been approved by the board in the calendar.
So you're saying Tuesday, Wednesday, what you have outlined, and potentially Tuesday.
Yes.
Any other comments? Well, it's something for us to be able to look at and to consider, and we will have a discussion about this at a future meeting. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We are still gonna get the information around what happened pre-pandemic with graduation.
Yeah, so none of the staff that was planning it was here. So that'll give us time to go and ask the principals. I would just say my recollection is that it varied. It was like Wyandotte had theirs outside in their stadium. Some had them.
Most of them had them down Memorial Hall.
And the rest have them at a more, well, so Janie, so that is what happened pre-pandemic. Wyandotte was outside. I guess they had a contingency plan.
Saturday morning, yeah.
Saturday morning.
And that's really rough, because they had to decide Friday night whether they were
It
going to
rained
have
Friday
it or
and
not.
Saturday.
And the one time they had to bring it into the,
hailstorm in Washington.
so if you have it somewhere outside, you're still going to have some, to me, you're going to have some way to have tickets in case you have to limit who comes in because you move it inside or something like that. Because you don't want one family to have 30 spots and then the other family can't get in.
Yeah, so what I was saying right now, we don't have a contingency plan because Children's Mercy Park said the schools that have worked with them for years, they just moved to the covered area. If we create a contingency plan, you're committing dollars, like you're paying double.
Right.
So and I don't know, like, what's the rain out policy? I think we still, because of the contract, we would still pay them, and then you will turn around and have to pay our staff. So you will be doubling the cost.
But their rain out policy, if it rains, we then get to re-host the event.
They have covered areas, and
No, but I'm saying like if it's thundering and lightning, their rain out policy still allows us to use that same venue just on a different day.
So only if the conditions were such that they would have to shut down the park, will we be canceled and then have to find an alternate day. If it's just rain, it would be, as Dr. Stubblefield said, like families will move to the covered area, the graduates are already covered, and there's an emergency tent. If they know it's in the forecast, they have it ready to put it over the stage area.
Anyone ever been there for the cover? I've not experienced.
Yeah, it is, I'm not, so the upper level is all covered. I've been to a soccer game when it was raining. I've not been to a so if you're in that area, and it's still a few thousand people who can fit up there. So it's ample. It's not like it's just one row. If we have any school that fills up the stadium, I would be shocked. There's schools just as large as us who have, and we might possibly, if everyone invites everyone, but typically, I mean, it holds 5,000.
Okay, yes, I've sat at the top where it's covered, and that is what we're saying is where our guests would sit. Okay, because
Yes.
I have sat there. Okay.
Okay, any other comments? Okay, thank you. We will move on. Next, we're going to go to a report and the recommendation by the Kansas City, Kansas Board of Education accepts an informational item, Kansas Assessment Program Report, submitted by Dr. Zachary Conrad, recommended by Dr. Anna Stubblefield, our superintendent. Mr. Conrad.
Good evening, Board President Lopez, Vice President Drew, board members, Superintendent Dr. Stubblefield. I'm Dr. Conrad, Executive Director of TIS and DERA. And today we will be discussing the Kansas Assessment Program results that our students took at the end of last school year. And so as a reminder of our strategic framework, this really fits into the academic piece of it and is an outcome measure for quite a few of our themes and goals that we're working towards. Here's a reminder of the trajectory towards our Diploma Plus, our North Star, hitting 100%. And again, our priorities fit within the CAP program in making those database decisions, also being able to have systems of support for our students and making sure that our curriculum is aligned to the rigor and depth of our standards. And so before we begin, I do want to acknowledge that we have looked at our data in comparison to other districts across the state, and we've looked at the change of students in performance level 1 from 2021 to 2022 to last year's results. And we have seen a decrease of students in our math program from last year to this year's results. Of about a 7% decrease of students in that number 1. That ranks us 23rd in the state for decreasing our level 1 students, the percent of students in that level 1, which is significant considering we have so many students that we've moved out. We've moved out about 1,400, just over 1,400 students out of that performance level 1. And the 22 districts above us moved out a total of 800. And so we've done terrific work there. Also on the ELA side, we've looked at some data where the entire state did shift up. They increased their level 1s, but we did beat the state average and had fewer of our students percentage-wise move over to level 1. And so the whole state shifted, but we were still significantly better than the state average. And so we are trending in the right direction. I didn't have those slides in here because this is data that we continue to explore and look at. And so I wanted to mention it because those are big victories that we're moving in the right direction, and it's fantastic. And so we also want to preface some of the following slides with why we included the level 2, the top level 2. This is from a presentation from our State Department explaining that our high level 2s have significant success post-secondary. Their ACT scores are at benchmarks, and so we include the high level 2s with our 3s and 4s because they demonstrate success post-secondary and on ACTs. So as we go through the next slides, you will see high 2s and 3s and 4s in those categories, the percentages, because that's really where we want our students to be able to have the best chance at success, and that's high level 2s, 3s, and 4s. And so we broke it down by school, and this is all schools included, and we wanted to see who had the most change from year over year. So you have 3 years of data, and you're looking at the change from 2022 to 2023. And we wanted to be able to identify where those big changes are taking place, what's the practices that we are supporting there, and how can we duplicate that. We also looked at the bottom schools where we're not seeing as much change. We wanted to be able to identify the best practices that we are seeing being implemented at the top schools and how we can exemplify those at the schools that are not progressing as much as what we'd like to see. You will notice that in the column 2023, that some of these schools have high percentages of students in that category as well, but we're really looking at the trend and where that's headed, so we can make sure that all of our schools are trending in the right direction. We also broke it down by grade. In our ELA, 6th grade, all 6th grade buildings, all middle school buildings saw growth in ELA. 100% of our 6th graders saw growth this year, which is just fantastic. But you could see here we had some struggles in other grades. ELA, we saw growth in every grade level. Every grade level saw improvement over the prior year. The color coding is slightly misleading because it is a rank coloring, but all schools in ELA, or all grade levels in ELA, did see growth. In math, we had 4 of the grade levels showing growth, and then 3 of the grade levels that were really close to stagnant percentages there. We also broke it down by grade levels so that we can look at where we're seeing growth within the grade levels and replicating some of those things as well. And so you'll see 3rd grade and then those top schools. And then on the following slide, it is those grade levels that didn't see as much growth or negative growth where we would want to focus our efforts to make sure we're trending in the right direction. And so all of those grades, 4th, same thing, 5th grade, all the way down, so that we can, again, specifically target where we're seeing this growth and where we're not, so we can duplicate those practices. And then 10th grade.
Can you share anecdotally, like what are those practices? What are the things that we are purchasing and paying for that you're able to take the information, the data that you have, and say, this is the difference that's being made? I understand we have these like district-wide system things, but what are those things? Is it IXL? Is it the individual school? I think that's the information that I also want to see in these, because I feel like we have a lot of conversations about ROI or bang for our buck, but there actually are no tangible things that I'm seeing that, like, I'm seeing the data and I'm seeing the numbers, but I don't remember every district profile from when you shared that presentation. And then it makes my mind think, so is this a part of the district profile? But it's only such a limited, because they only take the CAP test in specific grades. So then I'm just trying to piece those pieces together, because then when we get to that budget question, I'm looking at the budget questions like, we're doing some of these things. So we've already removed these barriers, but people are still not having the change we want to see.
Yeah, and it's a little bit more nuanced than that, because we do district-wide things. We really have to uncover that. It's a root cause analysis that we have to dive into. So the first step is actually getting the data, reviewing it. Now our next step is looking back and, well, looking forward as well on what took place, and let's start to uncover some of that root cause. So it's unique. And that's why we break it down by building, by grade level, so that we can really hone in on what's going on. Because if we just look at the building, we miss some of that nuance of this grade level is really successful, this one's not. Okay, what's happening there, because we're all using IXL. But it's a root cause analysis, and that process is a little bit more nuanced.
And we did do a root cause, like one of the things that came out of like our schools, and you may remember we had the conversation, who moved off of CSI and those kind of things, they did look at like practices and talk about what was happening. So some of it is nuanced around things like school culture, or if they had new teachers, or like, some of it is just nuanced and subjective, but those are the conversations that we look at the data with our curriculum and instruction team, the EDs of schools, as we do walkthroughs and those kind of things, because as he said and you said, district-wide, everybody's using the same curriculum. And sometimes it is, are you implementing the curriculum with fidelity? And that's what those walkthroughs reveal to you. so that we can then go back and say, hey, when we walked through, we didn't see the use of, you weren't doing X based off of what is that? So some of it is so nuanced. It's not really about the resource, it's about how the resource is being used in some cases. So it is all of those complexities that you get to the end result. But I hear you around that, and I think when we are bringing things back up for renewal, we can show the data, this is what the overall growth is. So like if we say we saw all of our sixth graders improved, so we know the resource that we're using at sixth grade, we're getting our ROI.
Or the
But
fifth grade?
Yeah, fourth, fifth grade, and now
or
the-
the
it's
fifth
paying
grade,
off,
or a
yeah.
combination. So that's what we would have to go back and unpack, because they took the test
Are they
this
taking
spring,
this in this? Okay.
spring of their sixth
Yeah.
grade year, yeah.
Wanda, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing that Ms. Russell said, because as a parent, you got to be able to explain that to them too. You know, we're seeing all this, we understand, but you got to be able to say, we did this, we did that. Is it the size of the school? Maybe you had younger teachers, I don't know. But you got to be able to show them and explain how your child is ranked here, or we got to be able to say why we, in terms of our accreditation and all this, to document what we're doing to get things up. You got to give them, in layman's term, what does it mean? Because that's not going to help them. You got to give me some examples. What are you doing? What have you done? What do I need to do to help my child?
And that's what the teachers do during FA, or when they're having the curriculum nights or the parent conferences. Those individual conversations about your individual child is not what we present. Like at this level, we show like all of it, but that's what happens at the school level with the teachers, with their FA person, depending on, you know, the grade level. And when they have the title nights and the curriculum nights, that's when they are explaining, this is what the curriculum does, this is how you access it, here's the information, here's what FastBridge does. That's what they do at the school level.
Because it would help us too, because we want to know if what we're using is really working. That's why we keep asking the same question over and over again. Are we really getting our bang for our buck? You know, we're spending this money. I want to see. I can see some growth, and I wonder why the group at the top is excelling and the bottom group is not. And I know it's a variety of different things, but I'd like to see it spelled out a little bit more. That's just me.
Yeah, so I will say this, if you look at our overall results and the directions that we're trending in, the things that we have invested in, we are getting our return on investment. Like, we've moved more students out of level one, over 1,400, but you also have to be realistic, because each individual student is at a different place. So some move at a faster pace and maybe have less gaps, and others is gonna take a while. So there's no like silver bullet, there's no magic wand that we have. And so we gotta be realistic when you look at the percentage of our students that were in level one, in the low twos, and then where we're trying to take them. It will take time, but overall, we are trending in the right direction. So when you think about, we moved 7%, we had 7% increase of the number of students that moved out of level one. That's significant, and it is more. And so we had a lot of students in level one as well, right? So you got to weigh that. But then when you look at individual buildings and collectively, how many students moved into, because if they moved out of level one, they're going to 2s, 3s, or 4. So that's where all of that is balanced. So I mean, and the CAP assessment is just one piece of data. We have other data and other information that shows that our students are progressing and growing and or being successful as well.
Anyone else? Dr. Nguyen?
Yes. So what is what's the cut score to give me the key between a beige and a lighter beige and a pink and a lighter pink?
So it's a rank order, and so it just shades differently as you go down, from positive to negative. And so the positives are going to be in the green, and not all the schools are listed. If you would see all the schools, then you would see that gradual shift over. And so the bottom are darker, the top are, or the top, like on this one, it's darker green because it's at the top, then it goes lighter. And then there's a whole lot, there's the rest of our schools in the middle of it, and then it goes down to the pink when you turn negative.
Right.
But when you go, which I know we're still looking at it, but when you look at us and how we compare to the state, that also gives you another piece of data around where our kids have started and the growth that we're seeing in comparison to where the state, students in the state are performing, and that is also shown by building and subgroup.
Right, I'm looking at that. So tell me what made a red and an orange?
What slide specifically are you looking at?
The one, the
Comparison.
next one, the state comparison
Correct.
with the.
This
circle.
one?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay, so, I haven't gotten there yet, so I apologize.
Okay.
I'll go ahead and move along to this one. What we have here, and actually there's a better description of it, and it's out of order for the descriptor on slide 30. And so the definitions on slide 30, exceeds, that's you're greater than one standard deviation above the state mean. Meeting is within one standard deviation of the state mean. Approaching is below. And then below is 1.5 standard deviations below the state mean. So I'm going to scroll back up so that we can start over with that. And I originally had that on the first slide of this presentation, and then it made more sense to move it around, and I didn't move that piece, so I apologize about that. So when we look at Banneker Elementary School, the square box is the state average. The circle is where the student is at Banneker, all students in that subgroup. And the color coding means that they are approaching. So on the right-hand side, it says performance category, and you have the color codes over there. So if we go over to Douglas, Douglas is in the red. They are 1.5 standard deviations below the state mean. Whereas right next door to them, Emerson is in the blue, so they are within a standard deviation of the state mean. And so we can look at overall where our students are falling in these subgroups. Over on the side, I don't have the capability in here, but within our system, we can filter on all the subgroups, on all the individual subgroups. That would be way too long to look at all the individual subgroups for this purpose by building, but we have the capabilities of doing that to see where we are and see where we need to focus our efforts. And so I actually went through all the buildings to look at all student subgroups so that we could see where those gaps exist, where more work needs to continue. Then we go down to slide, so we go through all the buildings that are that way. And then we look at slide 30, where we actually see the subgroups broken out. So we are meeting the state average. We are in the blue there on 5 categories: African American students, English learner students, English learners with disabilities, migrant, Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islanders. We are at the state average there. We are meeting that. So that's fantastic. We then have some that we are approaching on, and then some that we are below on. We are more than a standard and a half deviation below. And so these are areas that we can really focus on, and we can drill down to this at the building level so that we can explore that more. We also wanted to look at comparisons over time to see how these subgroups are trending. And so again, the squares are going to be your state, the circles are going to be the subgroup. And so all students have been a 1.5 standard deviation below the state average since 2018. Okay? We then look at African American students, and we could see that it's fluctuated back and forth, but last year we're within that standard deviation. But here's where we are able to look at that trend over time to see how we've been doing with these subgroups. And so this year, on slide 40 or 34, we're doing a number of things that we're developing our program evaluations around. And so that's including the TPT tutoring around math. We do have an evaluation that we just finalized some of the quantitative data for TPT last year that we will be bringing to the board at a future date. But we're focusing on the TPT tutoring. We'll also be able to evaluate, like was said at the last board meeting, AVID in the information there. We need to be innovative around filling some of these vacancies. We'll be monitoring PLCs and the formative assessment process. Those are evaluations that we are creating so that we can better monitor that. And then, of course, our multiple tiers systems of support. And so we'll have evaluations around that as well.
I have a question.
Yep.
On the TPT tutoring, does that take place after school, during the school day? When does that take place?
It's during the school day.
And do we offer any tutoring after school as well?
Not at this time. We don't.
There were some students last year, depending on the building, that we did have some virtual tutoring available based off some things, but currently this year we have not implemented that.
So if a parent said, I think my child needs more, I want to help, who could help him or her?
They should contact their schools, because schools have things in place after school, during school, like the district, like organizing it, like district office. We don't, but individual schools have different things set up, yeah.
'Cause I'm just, our scores are low, we're not where we should be. So one would think, I'm just asking, that we would offer whatever tutoring, whatever we can, if at all possible.
The schools do, what we're talking about is what we are doing district-wide. So there are lots of schools that offer like after-school clubs, tutoring, peer mentoring. They have, they have lots of different things. They have their partners through Caring for Kids, so they are set up with different churches and organizations, so it varies by school. We're just talking about, and those are the things that we look at, like nuance, when we're like, let's say, Quindaro made all of this improvement, we know everybody is doing this, what are those nuance things that they're doing that we may need to consider doing at the district level?
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
So now we're ready to move forward with policy review. To accept the third read, recommended the policy updates.
So I think the ones that we have up for third read, unless I'm off, are policy AG, GAFF, GAR, GARID, IFCC, JBCC, JH, and KK. Additionally, I think we've got it down for a second read for policy AAH. But
AHA, thank you, sorry. I thought that was the equity policy, which, yeah, it is, okay. Just making sure it's the right one. I know we renumbered it. So the first group, I believe, are up for the third read, and the equity policy, AHA, is up for a second read.
Any comments? None, okay. So the next is to accept the second read for policy AHA.
Well, we'll need a vote, unless you guys don't want to vote on
Vote.
it. We need to accept for third read the ones.
Okay. Could I get a motion for us to accept the third read for the KASB recommended policy updates?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and second, any comments?
And so the minutes are clear for the clerk. I think that would be the following policies, just for the minutes. It would be AG, GAFF, GAR, GARID, IFCC, JBCC, JH, and KK.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, Melissa, could we have a vote, please?
Yolanda Clark.
I'm sorry, Ms. Drew, I'm sorry. A quick question, and I didn't catch this earlier before we got to this. Mr. Goheen, just looking at the policies that are in the,
Yeah, I think Ms. Russell's indicating, I think the, which one was it? JK's on there.
there's JBE, I think.
I think it's JBE, and I think that replaces what I read as
JDD.
Yeah, there are some, like the equity policy is attached to it, and it's also separate, so it needs to be removed.
The equity policy's not in there. There's a
The GBD?
Right, and the equity policy is attached.
The second read.
That's the equity one's a separate motion.
Yeah.
But it's attached to,
Third read.
We're talking about 11 policies. There's 2 under new policies, and there's 9 on top of there.
Could you speak into the microphone?
So there's 2 underneath new policies, and there's 9 underneath proposed modifications, which is a total of 11. But I only heard you read off 8.
I was thinking that there were a couple that we did not recommend be moved, but I think they're still showing on there. But I want to make sure.
so if the enrollment policy and the equity policy, I don't know, listing-wise, I don't see them, but I see the equity policy under here, under equity policy. And it should not be.
So we're not doing suspension and expulsion procedures.
One that I think is in question, I'm not sure that one was listed.
JDD.
And then the equity policy you're speaking of, Dr. Stubblefield, is that the AHA?
Yes,
Second one? Okay.
but it's also attached to agenda item A.
Okay.
And I mean, I just looked at the attachment, yeah.
Can you reread the policies you have on the motion? And that will help me figure out the other ones that I did not hear.
Policy AG, GAFF, GAR, GARID,
Hold on, slow down. GAFF,
GAR, GARID as in David, IFCC, JBCC, JH, and KK.
JH, and J.
So
And policy JBCC, is that what you're saying, JB?
J,
Or is it JGCC?
I believe Mr. Goheen said JB.
JBC and JBCC were the enrollment policies, so those should not, that we did not end up adopting those. Those are held off for the October meeting, I believe.
But
So we still
what I
have,
see is JGCC, which is communicable diseases, which I think is a policy we added.
JBE and then JDD. Those 3 are also shown.
JH, what was after JH? KK?
Yes.
Okay. So JGCC is not one that's mentioned, but it's listed.
Look and see.
Correct.
Also, JBE is listed.
That's the truancy one, right?
Correct. Mhm.
Okay.
So do we need to include Mr. Goheen JBE, JGCC?
I didn't hear JH. Is that listed, Leslie?
Yes, I have JH.
Okay, thank you.
JH should be there.
Okay. JBE, JGCC are the two.
And then there's another one, unless you already covered it, under proposed new policy, JGFGA.
Which is the opioid.
Correct. And I don't think that one was listed in the motion, but it's listed under the agenda.
Right.
The only thing I can't remember on the opioid one was that for first or second, or was that for a third or a second read? Because
Just says proposed new policies.
I know that. I can't remember what we did at the last meeting.
Can we table these to the next?
You can to make sure we got them right. I'm confident on a number of them, but some of them I'm not sure.
Okay.
Would you like to table all of the policies?
Yeah,
I think we should.
yeah, because the ones that are linked don't match what's listed, so we just need to clean it up.
And in the
Yes, and the
meantime,
minutes from on here, they just say second read recommended. So that would be my recommendation, is I can't even look on here what specific ones we approved at our last.
Yeah, I'd have to pull up my notes from the last meeting.
Okay.
I think our brains were running the same. There needs to be that clarity.
So could we get a recommendation to table to accept the third read for the recommended policy updates?
I recommend that we table the policies till the next board meeting.
Second.
I want to be clear, are we tabling the third read policies, or are we tabling all of the policies?
She mentioned all.
All.
She mentioned all. I suggested third read, but she mentioned all, and so that's the one we're going to vote on.
My discussion would be, suggest that we table the third read ones. Well, I guess it could all be a mess.
But we don't know what's
Okay.
third read at this point, do
Let's
we?
just go ahead and vote.
Okay,
Okay, Leslie?
Table them for a
I
moment.
got you.
So just so we are clear, we are going to table all of the policies, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Yolanda Clark,
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries,
Janie Humphries, yes.
Randy Lopez,
Andy Lopez, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page,
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Rachel Russell,
Rachel Russell, yes. And I will just ask that whenever all of the policies, that they all come and just be in their clean read version, because I think that's where some of the confusion is. So,
Will be presented. Thank you.
thank you.
So at this time,
Oh, Dr. Wynn.
Dr.
Yes.
Okay, Dr. Nguyen, yes, thank you.
oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
But B, it's the second read, which is
Executive session.
We're going to do that later.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, so at this point, we're ready to go into executive session, and so Dr. Stubblefield?
Okay, so staff is excused with the exception of Sam Reed Devon, Dr. Campbell, and Mr. Lilly.
All right, exactly. Need a motion.
So can I have a motion, please, for us to recess to executive session, discuss matters of non-elect personnel in order to protect the privacy interests of the parties involved in the Kansas Open Meetings Act?
So moved.
For how long?
10 minutes.
For 10 minutes.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Leslie, could we vote, please?
Starting at 7.
We're starting at 7:50 and coming out in 10 minutes.
Great, thank you. Yolanda Clark,
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries,
Janie, yes.
Randy Lopez,
Randy, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page,
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Rachel Russell,
Rachel Russell, yes.
Dr. Nguyen.
Dr. Nguyen?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, can we have a motion to resume our meeting? Return to open session, please.
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded, moved by Janie, seconded by Yolanda, that we go back to open session. All right, any question? All in favor say yes. Thank you. Okay, if we're ready now for our next motion to recess to executive session for consultation with the attorney on matters which would be deemed privileged in the attorney-client relationship under the Kansas Open Meetings Act for 5 minutes with Dr. Stubblefield, Dr. Campbell, Sammy Devon, Steve Lilly, and Greg Goheen.
Going in at what time?
5 minutes, starting at 8:04 for 5 minutes.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, those, could we get a vote? All in favor say aye. Thank you. The ayes have it. We will resume back at 8:00 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can I get a motion for us to resume with our meeting?
Second.
Move in second. We are now resuming our meeting.
I didn't hear.
It's a motion it's been moved and seconded that we resume our meeting.
Rachel Russell made the motion,
Janie seconded, and so therefore, could you please roll call?
Yolanda Clark.
Roll call, please.
Yolanda Clark.
Yes.
Maxine Drew.
Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries.
Yes.
Randy Lopez.
Randy Lopez, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page.
On the Brownlee page, yes.
Rachel Russell.
Rachel, yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Could I get a motion for us to recess to executive session for consultation with the attorney on matters which would be deemed privileged on attorney-client relationship under Kansas Open Meeting Act with potential action to follow. Meeting for 3 minutes. It's starting at 8:12 for 3 minutes.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Leslie, for the vote, please.
I'm sorry, who seconded the motion?
Rachel?
Rachel.
Great, thank you. Yolanda Clark.
Wanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew.
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries.
Yes.
Randy Lopez.
Randy Lopez, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page.
On the Brownlee page, yes.
Rachel Russell.
Rachel Russell, yes.
Dr. Nguyen. Thank you.
Thank you. been moved and seconded. Motion made by Janie, seconded by Wanda Brownlee Page. Leslie, could you vote? Roll call, please.
Yolanda Clark. Maxine Drew.
Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries.
Yes.
Randy Lopez.
Randy Lopez, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page. Rachel Russell.
Rachel Russell, yes. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, could I have a motion for us to recess to executive session for consultation with the attorney on matters which would be deemed privileged in attorney-client relationship under the Kansas Open Meeting Act for 3 minutes with Dr. Stubblefield, Dr. Campbell, and Mr. Goheen?
So moved.
Second. And Steve Lilly is in here.
Steve Lilly and Samry.
And
Been moved and seconded?
Dr. Campbell as well?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yolanda Clark.
Yes.
Maxine Drew.
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries.
Janie, yes.
Randy Lopez.
Randy Lopez, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page.
Yes.
Rachel Russell.
Rachel Russell, yes.
Dr. Nguyen. Thank you.
Okay. get a motion for us to resume our meeting?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and second that we resume the meeting. We want to thank everyone for being here tonight, and we hope, okay, I'm sorry, we do need to vote. Thank you.
Yolanda Clark,
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries,
Janie, yes.
Randy Lopez,
Rudy Lopez, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page, Rachel Russell,
Rachel Russell, yes.
Dr. Nguyen.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you all for being present, and thank you to everyone who have been in observance. I make this motion that we adjourn this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Drew. Great job.
Yeah, no, the horrible.
Thanks, Miss.